Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 32, and we'll be talking last night's UFC card from Fight Island, as well as a few other bits and pieces. The show's available on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter. Ace Podcast Nation, of course, home to many different shows and series, top guests, expert analysts, and more. So please follow us on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and more. You can find the links and everything in the description. And so joining me to talk about all these things is, first of all, we had former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend, Mr. Danny Batten. How are you, mate?
Yes, I'm all good. Why is it I never get bored of hearing you say it the way you do?
You've got to build your ego up, haven't you, before I rip down your useless opinions for the next hour. No, it's good to have you back, mate. I haven't had you back. I haven't had you on the show for about 4 episodes, it feels like, but I think it's 3.
Yeah, it's good to be back, but there was all good reasons and very happy reasons why I wasn't around, as everyone probably already knows.
Very successful week. So yeah, we had Lewis joined me on Thursday for the live show, and I had I had Richard Mearns and James Lynch joined me at the Sunday show. But it was all good. I'll have a little chat to you about that now. But before I do, I'm going to introduce a welcome back for the second time. He loved it so much that he wanted more. Bellator MMA Welterweight, Mr. Lewis Long. Welcome back, buddy.
What's going on?
You right, mate?
Yeah, so man, all good. All good.
Lots has changed, I'm sure, since Thursday.
Yeah, more Welsh wins.
That's it. More Welsh wins. Welsh were on fire this week, but it was quite a successful week. I tweeted out earlier that if any fighters need, they want to be successful, they just need to come on this podcast, because all the fighters who've been on the podcast, they all won. So if you're superstitious and you're a mixed martial art fighter, this is the place to be. 100%.
Looks like I need to get a fight then.
Yeah, get a fight quick.
Oh yeah, Bellator.
No, yeah. So Dan, go on, we'll have a quick chat about it. How was Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, I mean, the experience was unique from the get-go. Firstly, we had to be tested and quarantined at the park-in right next to Heathrow. So it was an experience, being trapped in your room and just having food delivered, knocked on the door. You couldn't see no one or anything. So that was how it started out. And then when we got the coach to be driven to Heathrow, the coach crashed.
Jesus Christ.
A lot of people probably don't even know about.
That's a good start.
It hit an overhead canopy as you approach into where the coach is pull over, and the guy just drove too far and hit the roof. We all tumbled forward in there. How no one was hurt, I don't know, but I felt sorry for the coach driver, really did. But yeah, that's how that all started out. So it was all exciting stuff. But the flight over, I've flown numerous times through arrangements with Bellator, and you just get a standard flight. It's all economy, but this was fantastic. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Etihad, yeah.
Nice.
Oh wow! I mean, we just had a regular seat for myself. Modesta had the business class on the way over, but it was just like I was in business class. It was amazing. The food was just of the highest order. You actually have metal knives and forks. You had to have some serious biceps to lift these things as well. So that was just great. And and Abu Dhabi itself and the place that we were put up into was incredible. And wow, UFC seriously organised. They had a 24-hour physio there for the fighters. You had a nutritionist that sorted out all their meals according to their weight. Again, 24-hour call for any concerns. It was just incredible. With Modesta's certain type of meals, they said, look, we're going to put a microwave in your room. He had an infected bursa on his knee. So they brought him in this device that wraps around your knee and keeps it cold. They were just absolutely on it. I've just never experienced anything like that with regards to the organisation. So well done, UFC.
Sounds like a good thing, but like I said before, it doesn't sound like you did much work. It sounds like you just sat around in your room,
Do you know what?
not doing
It
much.
wasn't like that. It might have seemed that way. Modestas is a professional through and through.
Oh, of course he is. I know he is.
But that means he makes you work when you're out there. He knew that we was going to be fighting between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, Abu Dhabi time. So at 3:30 every morning, our alarms would go off, and we'd do an hour to hour and a half technical training, drilling, questions and answers, prep up for his opponent. Yeah, every single morning he wanted to do that. Oh my God, that was tough. It was tough. So yeah, it wasn't all leisure.
But it went well, mate. The fight went well.
Yes, it did. Yeah, we knew that his knee would be a target because everyone was messaging saying, "Hey, what's wrong with his knee?" When he did that they do like a little demonstration of movements, and they kind of make it look like a computer game. And straight away, people were messaging me and circling his knee. What's happened? What's happened?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, hey, look, it's just an effective bursa. It's nothing too serious. It just hurts a little bit when he knelt on it. The structure of the knee was sound. But we knew that if everyone else was noticing it, we also knew that his opponent would also notice it. And I said, look, we can actually use this as a strategy. I said, but we know he's going to target that knee, so we're going to start prepping up those cross hands to try and counter that leg kick, but not for the first round, because in the first round he's going to have too much pep on that kick. I said, really don't want to be receiving that kick heavy in the first round, so that's why he's doing a lot of circling and a lot of lead leg switching as he threw the kick, so it landed on his foot predominantly rather than being lumped up with the shin, because we've all seen time again in UFCs and Bellator what happens with those shin kicks to the lower leg, how devastating it could be. So that's why you saw him foot round a lot in the first round, and second round, had it gone there, was going to be more standing his ground and countering the counter, because his opponent was using Modestas' range coming in with his footwork. He was just sitting and waiting and landing that leg kick in, and we was going to counter the counter with that cross hand. Yeah. But like I say, never got that far. 2 times he's won against guys who try to wrestle with him with those short, choppy elbows. He really gets some acceleration on those elbows. I think people think twice about pushing him up against the fence with their head on the waist like that now.
Yeah, they were brutal. Did when that finish happened, was there any ever a worry from you and his old man that maybe they were going to rule him as illegal sort of after the fight, or did you always feel comfortable they were?
Not at all. It was right in our corner. I saw everything that was happening, and like I say, we were drilling and prepping every day leading up to it, and we was working different levels regards to the head position, being pushed up against the wall, and we were working out different counters. And when you come in with your head low like that and try to link your hands, that linking of the hands don't come quickly. You have to work and bury your arms behind. And to do that, your head, quite often, to get the reach, your head comes round to the side. When your head comes round to the side, you're open for the elbows. That's the only issue with trying to link your hands together. Just doing a double leg with your arms separate, you can keep your head kind of to the front of the body, protecting yourself from those strikes. But trying to reach that linkage, yes, it's beneficial if you can nail it, because you're almost guaranteed to get that takedown. But to bite it in, you're going to receive some shots if you're not quick with it. And that's what we saw.
Yeah, it was impressive, mate. Really impressive. And like I said, the elbows looked brutal. I did feel, me and Lewis discussed it on Thursday. We felt a little bit sorry for him because we felt like he maybe fell over because they opened the door to the cage. But equally, he was looking a bit stumbly anyway. So I think even if the door wasn't there, he would have fallen against the cage anyway.
Yeah. People didn't see what happened backstage. He was staggering backstage as well. He was completely concussed backstage. And I know he was really complaining about it, but it is what it is. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen it go into a second round. Although obviously being first UFC fight, you're just happy to get it put out the way quick, because it's stressful being in the corner when you've got someone you care about in there, and you've invested so much time and effort into it. It's so stressful. Honestly, it was easier when I was getting in there myself. It really was. So anxiety levels were pretty damn high, but it would have been good to get those experiences of extra time in the cage in the UFC. But it just wasn't to be. He got the job done in the first round. You can't knock him for that.
No, and I think his debut couldn't have been much more impressive. Lewis, you watched it, and we talked about it a bit on Thursday. But was there anything which kind of stuck out for you from Modestas' performance?
I just thought those elbows was on point in there. And again, if he's done it before, if people have got to really be careful when they drop for legs or trying to link their hands. And again, like I don't think it was like a bad stoppage at all. I think it was perfect stoppage, as we said. Like if the cage door hadn't opened, he would have just slid down the cage. And if he'd gone out for round two, he'd ended up in the morgue, like rather than just concussed. So
I think Dan Mulcahy,
the officials, like.
Dan Mulcahy was he put his arms behind his back and was saying to him to see whether he's going to be coherent. And he just kept answering him, "Are you okay? You have to stand up. Are you willing to continue?" And he just wasn't responding. And to put your hands both flat down on the mat like that and then sit to your bum before even thinking about getting up, to me it goes to show that there was obviously something wrong with his awareness somewhere down the line. And the refs are being more cautious. I think that was the first time Dan Mulcahy had been refereeing in UFC, as far as I understand.
But he got some criticism later in the night as well for there was the one fight he kept standing people. He stood someone up. Which fight was it?
A little bit early, I think
And it was but it was really weird, mate. It was like they went to the ground and he just stood him up like almost immediately. It was like 30 seconds or something, and I just that was a bit strange.
Yeah. It's going to take him a little while to fire on all cylinders. It's a big stage to step up on for referees, and that under such scrutiny, as we know, we've had that as discussions recently ourselves on the podcast. It's a bit of a pressure job.
100%.
I think initially he'd done pretty good, and some of the fights may have been stood up a little early, but everything that was happening kept everything safe and kept it flowing, if nothing else. And the refs are really diligent that the action is maintained when hitting the ground. You really have to be active. You can't be seen to pin and hold. So I kind of don't disagree with it. The worst thing in the world is to bring back, just the laying and praying on the ground with just body head shots. And they did say that and reiterated that in the back room. They said you will be stood up if you're on both knees, just hitting the body and hitting the head and not looking like you're trying to be intentional with it. So if you're looking to even stall with your strikes, you're going to be stood up. So I'm not surprised that they were being stood up earlier than you normally expect. I think they wanted it to be all action. And for the best part, that's what you got for the night. I think it was pretty good fights on the night.
It was a really good night of fights. It's been, I got to say, we're going to move on to last night. And I got to say, these 3 Fight Island cards on the UFC have been really good. There's been like 2, 3, 4 fights which have been really exciting to watch on every card. And last night's was no different.
Right.
We're going to kind of have a little chat about a couple of the prelim fights, because there was again a couple of British guys and Irish guys. So we'll talk about them. We'll talk about the prelims first before we move into the main card. So the first one was Brett Johns versus Montel Jackson. Brett took a little bit of time to get going that first round. I think he was a bit tentative maybe, and he got caught as well. And I thought he showed really good grit, determination, whatever you want to call it. He settled himself after getting floored and went on to win the fight. Lewis, what did you make of that first round? Obviously, like I say, Brett went down.
Well, if I knew the decision before I watched it, because I watched it today, and of course my news feed was flooded with obviously congratulations for him. But the first 2 minutes of it, if I was watching that, I would have been worried.
Yeah, I was. I didn't know the result, and I was worried.
Because Brett got taken down. He ended up on his back. Dropped in that first round. He done a lot. It was good work in the first round as well. But for me, I know Brett, and he's stuck. He's stuck to the floor. Taking him down is nigh on impossible. And seeing him, get in the first exchange, getting taken down, and then just knocked to the floor. I was a bit like, he does win. He does win, right?
Just double checking, like.
Shit. But you probably definitely conceded that first round. But other than that, he just brought it back, and he's a solid grappler, tough as they come.
Yeah.
He settled into it, didn't he? Go on, Dan.
Yeah, that takedown that happened in that first round. It was just a split second lack of awareness of what he was doing with that engaging leg. So he was trying to step outside to try and drag the leg out of his opponent. Then he just placed his foot down on the inside leg, and that's what got him tripped down. And I just think he underestimated the length of his opponent. You know, he's got really long legs, and he just had his foot nicely behind Brett and just took him over. And it was like Brett really it was a complete mistake. Rather than actually being taken down, although that was what happened, it was just a split-second misplacement of his foot, and it was enough to be tripped down. And at this level, you know, in UFCs, you know, Bellator, one or two things like that, you make a mistake, you're going to get paid.
That could have been done. You know, could have been done.
Yeah, absolutely.
That, you know, but
yeah, you don't see him make those mistakes often. There.
No,
you know?
you don't. He took a really clean shot, which floored him. Which, like we said, and I did, because I didn't know the result when I watched it, and I was like, oof, I got a bit. I did get a bit worried because he first couple of seconds he did look a bit, you know, like he'd been had his bell rung a bit. But I was impressed with not just how he settled himself in that first round. After that, to see out the round and make sure that it didn't lead to any further damage or issues, and then to go on into the second round. Danny, what was your thoughts on that sort of second round then, and his recovery from getting knocked down?
He started really getting his groove, started to show his intent to smother his opponent. And his opponent was really awkward. Like I say, he's really long, clearly got potentially dangerous striking. But there were holes in his opponent's game. And Brett was able to probably get sense of where he knew he could have the advantage. And he kept taking it there. And I thought he was really getting himself together well in that second round. And he needed to as well. He didn't. For me, in my mind, I felt like he may well have lost that first round. It was really close.
Definitely.
But yeah, it wasn't looking good for him. But the way he got himself back, he'd go to show that, you know, he's a grueler, man. He's going to fire on all cylinders because of hope. And some people lose hope when they lose a round like that. But he come back well strong. I was really impressed. And he goes to show, you know, what kind of character he is. He's in there to win no matter how rounds go.
I got to say, do you know what I was... Go on.
Didn't Shaky say, that was an even round?
Yeah, he did, yeah. He said he said he thought it was a 10-10 round, didn't he?
Yeah. No, that was not the case.
I wasn't having that. I didn't think that. But then, you know... But then, funny enough, like, I the last two fights which Brett's had, Dan, we've covered them on here, and I think since he come back from his injury, those two fights, I've been really impressed with him, and he's really shown how he was able to compete with the likes of Aljamain Sterling and who was the other one? Pedro Munez, who he fought previously and took him close as well. And you know, those guys are right at the top of the division now. So I think it does go to show he's got so much talent and grit, and he's just got balls of steel, man.
I mean, if you're gonna have losses, they're not like the worst people to lose to, are they? You know, and both unanimous decisions as well. You know, it's not like, you know, he wasn't just.
It's not like a first round submission or knockout, was it? Was anything from that second round, Lewis, which stuck out for you from Brett?
I just liked it, the way he kept the boys' range down. You know, he stayed inside. I almost went against him having those long arms, because as soon as he'd throw, he'd be on that lead right leg, because the boy was southpaw, and he just, boom, easy sort of pick up on those legs, and really struggled to do anything against him. I mean, it was in the end of the second he took his back.
Yeah, that's was just right at the end, wasn't it?
Body triangle, but the guy kept holding his wrist, didn't he? Now they was talking about his gloves. He has a double XL glove.
He's got bigger hands than Cormier,
which is nuts for that weight division. So obviously this guy kept going for the wrist wrestling, and I think that was his saving grace for being subbed out at the end of that second round, because he just kept holding that wrist. So awkward.
You know what it's like when someone's got a good grip, and again, some with arms as long as that can stop a takedown or pin a wrist. It's so frustrating as a fighter, and especially to be in such a prone position like the back with the legs locked on and still having your arms tied up. You know?
That's right. Yeah. He looked really awkward, really awkward. He had a lot of awareness of the potential dangers, and you know, he was doing the right things in a very different way. hence holding the wrist the way he did. Now, wrist wrestling is something that we've all come climatized with, but I haven't seen it in that extent. And he took true advantage of that huge set of hands that he's got, and keeping a hold of Brett's wrist. And like I say, I felt like it was his saving grace. The only unfortunate thing hit him was that it was just effective defense. And if you're defending all the time, you're not winning. So that's why it ended up going against him the way it did.
Yeah, I was impressed by the way the adjustments Brett made from the first round. And, credit goes to Brett and Shaky and the rest of them, because in the first round, I think his range on the feet did cause Brett some issues because he was so long. And then obviously, like you guys said about when he got taken down, it was down to the length and the reach of Jackson. But I felt like in that second round and again in the third round, they made the necessary adjustments to negate his range on the feet, meaning that he could, go about his business that he, and the fight that he wanted to fight in the second and third round. So you reckon without his reach and the size of his hands, he probably would have got submitted at the end of that second round?
I think he would have had a hard time trying to survive. Yeah, he would have had a hard time trying to prevent those arms linking around his neck and having those finishes put on him. Or he would have at least have to been defending and escaping some very awkward submission opportunities from Brett. But it did nullify the full extent of the dangers. And it's just the amount he kept going for the wrist. It's obviously something he's got accustomed to in his own training and sparring. And but like I say, he's just got to learn now to actually turn counters with this wrist control and get some offensive fighting off himself to make himself more effective. Otherwise, he's going to get smothered again. People will look at this and they'll be seeing weaknesses in Jackson's game. They'll see a lot of resistance to the submissions, but you can win fights just by smothering, which is what we saw from Brett.
Yeah, Brett's really good, isn't he, on the ground?
Very impressive.
It's very difficult once he gets you there. The third round began with Jackson going for like this big, I think it was a left hook, and Brett just popped in with a nice left of his own, and then he kind of went the same way. But I just thought Brett was impressive. The second and third round, I thought Brett Johns was excellent, and I thought he showed the weaknesses that Jackson had outside of his reach and his striking. What did you make of that third round, Dan?
Okay, third round, so I started noticing the pattern of how he was able to keep negating into the wrestling realm against Jackson. And what was happening was they was both in opposite stance. And when you're in opposite stance, your lead legs are really close. It's a way of getting a good attachment to their legs to try and pick up on a single. The issue with trying to pick up a single when you're opposite stances, bearing in mind you're probably going to go for the lead leg for a single pickup and engagement, is that you've got to throw a shot and make a step to try and engage on that lead leg. When you're opposite stances, you're kind of really close to that leg, and if you have a look back at the fight, you see how he kept on picking up that single to get his entry. This, whether it was a game plan or it just fell in place for him that way, this was how he was able to keep forcing that wrestling on Jackson. So that was, just something I observed, and I think by this point, Brett almost just knew the route to victory. He knew he was only getting good defensive work from Jackson, and Jackson's danger work was really out in the open at strike range.
Yeah, I saw Jackson. He nailed a couple of shots, like in that third round, from distance, but he was never able to nail maybe more than one or two. And Brett also hit him with a couple of nice counter shots in between.
Yes, he did.
Going for the single leg. Anything else you want to add to that, Lewis?
No, again, it's just I just think about Jackson. If I was in his corner or his coach, why wasn't he bringing up knees, or he knows the style of fight that he was against, and he just didn't get his range off. He let Brett stand there where he could just get that leg, pick that leg up all day, every day, and he's good at that anyway. Without it just being gifted to him as well. I was frustrated with his opponent not,
adjusting his game. He didn't make the adjustments, did he?
Because I always try and think when I watch fights, what would I say to the fighter if I was in their position? What would I say to the corner? And you think start lifting up your legs, start throwing some head kicks, start keeping them away. But Lewis
is absolutely right. you're absolutely right, Lewis. Whenever I'm training my guys, I always try to prep them in a way where, how would I prep someone to beat them? So that's how I sort of say, look, you've got to be aware of this. If I was your position, I'd be telling them to work on this part. I know this part's weak in your game, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He didn't make adjustments, and he could have made his length count and be even more so dangerous with those knees, with more chopping elbows to try to make that clinch at least anxiety filled. So Brett had to fight through some flack. He didn't have to do that. Every time he entered in quite clean on Jackson.
Yeah, there was about 2 minutes into that third round. Even though he had the height advantage, Brett kind of threw him across the cage. Like it was like a hip toss, and he just hit him with a couple of really nice cross faces from sort of behind, and I just thought he was very impressive, to be honest. And
I know his dad, right? I know his dad, Bertie, right? Because we used to be on the judo mat together. And I know he's going to be like, you put a hip into him, but why didn't you kick his legs away? Why didn't you Harry gosh him? I can see him now going,
love it. No, it was, again, it's about it. When you consider the first round, the issues which were there, to then have 2 back-to-back rounds the way he did, I think not just shows a intelligence, like a fight IQ, which we talk about on this show all the time, but to make the necessary adjustments. But also, as we know, Brett Johns has got a hell of a chin, because he did take some, he took a couple of shots throughout, and apart from that one, which I think took him by surprise. Again, I wonder whether that took him by surprise because he was quite far away from him. So whether he maybe thought he was out of range, I'm not sure, but it's just, it was good. So Brett Johns won 29-28, 29-28, 29-28.
I tell you what with Brett, though. Brett is obviously a stand-up guy in and out of the cage. He's a real martial artist and real stand-up bloke. Like, I love him to bits. I couldn't be more happier for him, his family, and his team. A bit hilarious, I think they're champion, like, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they had a good week, did Shore MMA.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
So the next one we were going to look at from the prelims was the Irishman Joe Duffy fought Joel Alvarez. Was only, I think, what did it last? 2 minutes 25 of the first round. Joe Duffy's had a rough time of it, and it didn't get better for him, Danny.
Yeah, he chose to have a professional boxing coach in his corner because, as we know with Duffy, he's got a good pedigree background with the pro boxing, whatever you. Feeling like it might make his hands more technical, but really the main successes we saw actually with his low point kick. Maybe because he was threatening the hand range, it was making him be able to follow up that leg kick afterwards. But then his opponent was also scoring those low point kicks. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Duffy seems to be having a hard time of it. Any opponent when you're in the UFC's got the potentiality to beat you, and he seems to be on the receiving end of it. And as well, he just scored with a lovely takedown as well before the inevitable happened. With your head stuffed down like that. Yeah, utterly gutted for him. I don't know how many fights he's got left on his contract, but you got to wonder whether he's at risk of being cut at this point.
He's retired.
Oh, he's retired. Didn't know.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. No. You put up a post saying he retired. So my personal thought is like, he went in with that in his head anyway. Yeah,
it's quite quick otherwise, isn't it?
And then when it sort of went, I'm out. And just went. As I said, if you're thinking about that, it is in your head when times get tough. It's you're thinking about retiring anyway, but God bless him. Again, Joe's a lovely guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Irish Joe Duffy from Abertillery. He's from Abertillery.
Is he?
Yeah, as I've known him for years because he used to train in a gym opposite Shakey's called Falcons.
So he was Irish.
No, he is. Well, he's Irish descent, but no, he was brought up in the valleys.
I did not know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he got signed to the UFC. This is Irish Joe Duffy. It's all of us in Wales going.
All right.
Genuine.
I didn't know that. I wondered why he spoke with a Valleys accent. No, it's, good luck to him. He's had a great career. Like it's it haven't really worked out for him in the in the UFC, but he got there, and he done well elsewhere, so you can't fault him. But I'm sure as well he's got a lot to offer, whether it be coaching or like media work or whatever, whatever it may be, commentating, Cage Warriors, UFC. There's stuff to be done in there. Bellator, there's more and more academies and and gyms and MMA places which are looking for top level guys to teach the new generation, innit?
I'd hate to say that was it for him. I know he's like retired from fighting for the moment, but as you said, he's got such a good skill set. He's 7-0 as a pro boxer, as well as being so good in the cage as well. He just had issues with injuries and never come back with that momentum. It's it's sad to see, but
yeah, it didn't go well for him though, did it? The actual fight, he lost by a guillotine, and it came from him taking down Alvarez. The finish, he kind of took him down, and then he just got caught and had nowhere to go, did he?
Yeah.
Was there anything do you think he should have done differently once he'd taken him down and he had that guillotine in? Lewis, was there anything he could have done to?
I mean, he didn't do anything. Is the answer? That's why I seem to think that he just didn't want to be in there once he got in.
Right. Okay.
He didn't go to the elbow. He didn't go to the hands. He didn't look to roll, stack. He didn't do, just waited. Hand was in the air. 3, 2. Okay, yeah, that's enough. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, and I
lost
guess
the faith, like
to announce his retirement, 24 hours or like a couple of days later, it's quite quick, isn't it? So it must have been in his mind, like you said, before the fight. And then if you're already thinking about it before you go in there, I'm not saying it distracted him, but it's there, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like if things are playing on your mind or you're thinking about stuff beforehand, it's gonna have some sort of effect, whatever it may be. Danny, what did you think of it? I know it wasn't very long, but was there sort of anything you felt he should have done?
Yeah, just really with the way he took him down, he took the guy down, but obviously had his head stuffed really low.
Yeah.
Which is always a danger zone, especially with someone who's long with slim arms like that can hook underneath your neck. But the guy had a one hooks guard, and whenever someone's got one hooks guard, if you want to advance your position in regards to being put in a guillotine, etc., you need to push past that knee on the hook side. He just didn't attempt to even. To my surprise, he could have got his body round more and taken a bit of pressure off that neck by pushing past that knee. But he rose up, which is like stage one of trying to defend the position, but just didn't post on that knee and try and come round. I think maybe with what Lewis was saying about knowing he was going to retire either or way, I think at that point when you're in that submission, maybe just didn't want to give the fight like he would if he still had thoughts of having a longer career. He just waited it out really and then give those taps, but just didn't try to change and exchange position. It wasn't a closed off guard, it was a one hooks guard that's still partially open for an exchange on position, but he didn't even fight to do it.
Yeah. So Joel Alvarez defeated Joe Duffy by submission via guillotine, 2 minutes 25 the first round. So then we're going to move on to the main card. The first fight was Alexander Panchora versus Askar Askarov. This I thought was the first banger of the night. I thought it was pretty good. Lewis, what's your kind of thoughts of that first round of this one?
Amazing.
It was good, wasn't it?
Amazing. What transitions he was throwing up, just didn't care about losing position. He was just going flat out submission, attack, get up, work. I thought it was awesome.
The fitness, mate, gets me. Like being I know you two, you're a fighter. Danny's an ex-fighter and a coach. It's the fitness for him to be able to go, get up, go. He was like a Duracell bunny, just constant, from the first minute to the end.
a lighter fighter, 125, you've got to be, a fit fighter, because the movements are so much faster. The speed and just the way everyone is at that weight, you've got to be prepared for quick exchanges. You've got
It's
to be
impressive.
fit, really fit.
Really, it's so enjoyable to watch. This fight was. Danny, what did you make of that first round?
Yeah. I mean, Padura, is that how you say it?
Pantura, I think.
Yeah, he utterly impressed me with the jiu-jitsu skills, but nevertheless, those jiu-jitsu skills he was, trying to pull off are all on his back. That both takes a lot of energy, and they're always potentially consequential from a guard pass for the top opponent, and also the ground and pound. So it was a weird case where Pantoja, yeah, he was kind of like where he was happy to be, but likewise, I feel like Askarov was where he wanted to be. I think he was happy to play top position, having submissions fired up at him. He looked fully aware of the potential dangers, and as much as those submissions were all coming up, he never really looked in proper danger of having them tied up off onto him. It was all good for the eye, good for viewing, because I think sometimes the jiu-jitsu aspect in modern times in MMA has kind of not been able to be seen.
People don't always appreciate it, do they?
Yeah, and well, it's damn hard to get someone down now, and really hard to get someone down and exchange actual jiu-jitsu moves anymore. Normally it's a case of the top guys throwing down ground and pound and elbows, and the guy underneath is trying to find a way to get back up. So to see someone actually embrace the underneath position and find ways to fire up submissions that were visual and all potential could have been pulled off was good and refreshing to see.
Yeah, I thought it was a very enjoyable fight. It was just balls to the wall for the whole first round. Did you both give that first round to Pantura, or did you think Askarov won that first round?
I went for Pantura. I mean, just on trying to finish the fight. That's what I look at a lot. He was always looking to finish that fight. I said even if the submission attempts weren't close, he was still trying. And in the first 2 minutes, he must have put on 5 legitimate attempts. So that first round had to go to Panjura for me.
Yeah.
And I think. Go on, Dan.
Yeah.
No, go on, Dan.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. There was a guillotine attempt, a triangle into an armbar attempt, and then there was a back take. It was
was sick.
It was really, really swift. I think the other guy was trying to prep up a leg lock of some sort, and then got countered on it. It was really impressive to see. Yeah, I think any submission attempt that force an exchange of a position to defend it is a submission attempt enough for me. To me, that's not a strike being thrown and missing. That's a strike being thrown, okay, and you've blocked it, but it was an attack nevertheless, an attack that Askarov had to defend with. Askarov to me was having to defend numerous times and didn't get a chance to counter effectively, which is why I also gave the nod for Pantoja.
Yeah, it was good. The second round was much similar. Again, fast action, submission attempts. Danny, what did you make of the second round?
Yeah, I edged this one for Askarov. I felt like he's wrestling, pushing up. They were still really close, but I just felt like he was just being a little bit more effective with his striking. Had a little bit better, tighter defense with the strikes. Was trying to initiate those takedowns. It looked like he was just putting more overall energy in, whereas the first round was obviously on the flip side. So I just give the very, very slight nod on work rate and moving forward for Askarov.
Okay. Was it about you, Lewis, for that second round? Did you give that one?
Yeah. Again, I went the same. He was starting to implement his wrestling and land some clean strikes. It's just a pity that because I thought Pangea was, however you pronounce it, looked so good in the first round, but then still had the same score. Going into the third, I personally thought it was one apiece. But then in my mind, what stuck out was Pangea in that first round. And it was even going into the third. I kind of felt a bit disappointed for him. that it was all on the last round, but
Yeah, he was. I thought he was really impressive, Panjura. I thought both were. I thought Askarov was pretty good too, but there was something about the way Panjura was going about his business and the speed of it that really kind of caught my eye. So you guys both gave the second round to Askarov, and then the third round. Where did you see that going, Lewis? The third round, how did you see that one?
Again, I put it to Askarov. Just because he just looked like he had a lot more to give in the tank. He was more effective in that round. And I think Panjaya threw it. I think Percy threw it. I know, of course, he's tired, but all he needed to do was just keep working because he was just standing there looking at him, in that last round where the judges are making up their mind. And that fight is in the last 30 seconds or minute. And he's just standing there looking, not doing anything, not fainting. And that's where Askarov was trying to stay busy and just pipped him at the post, I think, really, with that last one.
Yeah, it's interesting. But so I had the first two rounds to Panjura and then the third one to Askarov. But then, I'm more than happy to go with the professionals. And the official result was that Askarov, ranked number 7, beat ranked number 4 Alexander Panjura by unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. Danny, was there anything you wanted to add about that third round, mate?
No, I just feel like Panjura had his moment to win. Quite early on in the round, he scored a crosshand that put Ashkranov on his arse. And we've seen how good the groundwork as Panjura is. I think he could have made more of it and kept Askarov down. I mean, Askarov's not going to be on his back with that wrestling skill for anything other than the fact of being punched and put on his ass. He was put on his ass, and that was a real good opportunity for Panjura to try to show off some top game jiu-jitsu and keep him down. But he just didn't. He was too loose because I think he was getting too tired. And in the striking, his work rate had tapered off and his hands were low. And that's why I also give the nod on that third round to Askarov.
Okay, cool. Next up was Ariane Lipski versus Luana Carolina. This one only went a couple. This one went. What did I? Sorry, minute and 28 of the first round. It was a very, very brief. I love this knee bar. I got to say, I thought it was slick.
I wanted to look away. It's like, oh,
it looked painful, didn't it?
Something's going to break here. It's like, man.
Knees are not supposed to bend that way, and she didn't.
And the screaming.
She didn't want to tap, did she? And it was kind of like, it was almost like Lipski was like, I don't want to push her no more, but she didn't want to tap. Then she pushed her and she screamed and tapped, and it was like, nasty looking. But I thought Lipski looked pretty good. I thought, I know it was only a minute and 28. I didn't think Carolina looked that bad. She had a couple of nice sort of counter strikes combination at the start, but Lipski did the business quickly. Lewis, what do you make of this one?
Yeah, again, I don't think it was a bad fight on their feet, but I think she felt quite safe on her back. I think she thought that she was winning the leg exchange because she was definitely sat in a calf slicer. Just completely ignored it. Went, oh look, a leg, and started pulling the leg round. So
it wasn't quick the way she picked, like where she gets the leg that she puts the knee bar on. It's not like she whipped it out. She is like sorting through the limbs and carefully just pulled it out and then applied the knee bar. Now, I'm not a professional coach or anything, but to me, I was thinking, like, especially when I watched it after, I was thinking, is there something that she didn't seem to react as she was getting hold of that leg to put the knee bar on, and I just was thinking, is there something she could have done, but her leg's tied up, like her other leg is so tied up, I don't know if she just had nowhere to go, like.
I personally think she just invested. I think she was invested in that calf slicer off her back, and didn't see the danger that was coming.
It's okay. She looks in pain afterwards.
Yeah.
But of course, she grabbed the leg. I mean, she needed the mental discipline to let go of a submission. You know, it takes a lot for a fighter to be in a good position, but still realize, you know, they might have to let go. How many fights do you see burn out because they're like squeezing the submission? And that same year, you know, because she had the calf slice, I think that she was fully invested in that, a bit panicked from being on her back. And then she thought she was going to get it, and the other girl just went, "Oh look,
yeah,
I'll have that, thank you. I'll see if I can bend this back." And apparently she can.
yeah. She paid for it. So yeah, Dan, simple as just she made an error, and she got caught.
Yeah, I mean, she was totally right to go for the calf splicer. To me, a calf slicer to work the way it should be effective to do so, it's not so much to damage the calf, but to literally detonate that knee. And to do that, you've got to have the lower part of your shin wedged right to the back of the knee. She had all that set up, but the issue on why it didn't work was because she didn't triangle off that leg that got knee barred. She didn't triangle it round the foot and ankle of the inserted leg. Because what that would have done is give equal pressure for both her pushing her outside knee for the leg that was engaged to her opponent's knee, behind the opponent's knee, to push that knee out, and to use the triangle to push with equal disparity behind the knee. The whole reason why that knee splicer didn't work, or calf slicer didn't work, was because that leg didn't triangle the foot. So she would have had uneven pressure behind the leg, which is why you never see her wince in pain. Now, trust me, being put in a calf splicer is not a position to sit and look comfortable in if it's done properly. It was done wrong for that reason. Of course, because she didn't engage that leg as a triangle over the other leg, it put it in the firing line for that knee bar. So although it was an impressive setup, it was not put in completion. Maybe she wasn't aware how to complete it in its entirety, and she left her leg hanging. So to me, she got totally countered, and deservingly so. She kind of set herself up there for the counter and the fall.
Yes. Next up was another British fighter, the last one of the evening. Mark DeCasey versus Rafael Fiviev. This one went the distance. Very, very sort of, we'll go quickly through the rounds. You can just give your opinions of how you think it went and who you gave it to. Danny, you go first, mate. First round, how did you see that?
Yeah, let me get my notes. You're getting ahead of me here. Right, yeah. All right, yeah. Okay, so this one, that Rafael, he had a little bit of a shaky beginning because I think he's under pressure, and they was talking a lot about, you know, that he's a head coach at Tiger Muay Thai, I think it was what they said. But once he started throwing, oh my goodness, everything he was throwing was with full venom. There was no, you know, pretty setups or anything like that. He was just throwing with full bore. And to me, he got impressive, more so impressive as the fight went on. DeCasey, you know, he's really impressive too. We've seen him, you know, mature nicely, and we know he's got good striking as well. But that Fiziev, he was looking a potential monster in there. He really was, and we started to see that monster come out of its cage in the second and third round. But first round was a little close, but you know, to me, you had to give it to Fiziev.
Yeah, I gave it to Fiziev as well. Lewis, what did you think of that first round, mate?
Yeah, again to Fiziev, and I mean it's hard because he looked like he just gained momentum throughout the fight, and as Danny's saying, it's hard to pick around, you know, because he looked really fantastic in the all. Everything he threw was hard. The kicks were coming up wickedly, you know, and DeCasey took some body kicks that, you know, put down anyone, you know, and you think, you know, it's fair play to him. And, you know, so in the first round I thought, you know, it was Fiziev's, but it was only because he's finding his feet, and again, as you said,
it took him a little while. Right in that first half, it was looking like it was going to be a close bout, but once Fiziev found his feet, he just got from strength to strength. He really did.
Yeah, and I thought, you know, there was points where like DeCasey looked quite dangerous, but Fiziev just got going, didn't he? And he was really good. But yeah, it was just. This is one of the reasons I really enjoy and not having the fans in the arenas is when you get those body kicks, like Lewis just mentioned. You can really hear the power behind them as they smash into the ribs and that. But it just adds to the fight. It adds to the like you're engrossed in it, and particularly when it's like quite an entertaining fight. The thuds and the slaps as they go around is really interesting, and it makes it more enjoyable, I think.
Yeah, Fiziev looked solid on the ground as well. I mean, you mustn't overlook the fact that he landed a really nasty-looking knee and had the posture control from standing and dragged Takeshi down to the mat. And it wasn't like he was just wanting to get back standing. He was happy to play top position underneath and looked really controlling. He looked like, he definitely knows what he's doing on the ground too. This guy's going to be someone to watch. I think he could be a contender in the coming fights if he keeps winning in the fashion that he did.
Yeah, 100%. Right, round 2. Danny, what did you think of that, mate?
Yeah, it's become more of the same. But this time, Fiziev was looking every bit of the hunter he was in the latter part of that first round. The way he was entering that first round was the way the second round was beginning, and the momentum just kept growing. And again, just those body kicks just were brutal. But respect to Casey, he didn't really flinch with them. I mean, he's got to have been feeling them. I know he's putting the ice pack on his ribs, so he must have been saying that my ribs are sore. But absolutely stone faced. He'll make a wicked poker player because he just didn't express any of those kicks to be hurting. But but nevertheless, receiving the kick well and not showing that they hurt is not winning him back any of the rounds, and so he dropped another round, in my opinion.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and the other thing with Casey, I think, is like he hasn't quite been able to implement his offensive skill set since he's been in the UFC. Like you see it now and again, but he haven't quite been able to get it going and connect with some of those shots. He's clearly a super talented guy who's got an incredible skill set of, particularly his striking range is incredible, but he just I feel like he hasn't quite been able to show what he can do in the UFC yet, and Fiziev wasn't having any of it. He wasn't going to let him show it during this fight. Did you give that second round to Fiziev, Lewis, as well?
Yeah, I give it to him. I mean, as soon as he tried to throw any hands, he was getting hit with those body kicks. And then that Fiziev again throwing hands, throwing hands hard. Everything was coming from Fiziev. It's short, sharp, and fast. And it sort of just started to look a little bit outclassed the case he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's I still think there's something there with Casey, and he's there's something for him to work on. I think he needs the right opponent. And Fiziev just wasn't it in terms of being the opponent for Casey. Like the third round was pretty much identical, I thought, to the first two in terms of Fiziev pretty much dominated it without I don't think any of them were anywhere near like a 10-8, but they were pretty dominant. That third round, Dan, did you give that to Fiziev as well?
I did give it to Fiziev, but I did feel like Casey knew he was rounds down, and it looked like he had a little bit more urgency in what he was doing, and he had a little bit more success. And part of that was down to the fact that Fiziev was slowing very, very slightly, so did get landed upon a little bit more. But I think by then, also, a lot of the dangerous fighting potential of Casey's game had already been kicked out of him, literally. But he was in it till the end. That would have perhaps been a really good fight to see go 5 rounds to see whether Fiziev may have fizzled out, so to speak. Yeah. And perhaps if Casey would have come on stronger in the championship rounds. So maybe that's the kind of fight that would suit Casey's style. Maybe it's just got that tempo that's better for a longer duration bout. I don't know, but I think you're right. His skill set is higher than what we've been able to witness with this. I just think Fiziev was just so impressive. But I just hope that we do see Takeshi again. I think he's an exciting fighter. I think we still got good things to come from him. And it was just a very, very difficult opponent. He was just outmatched that day. But in the future, these two could match up more closely, perhaps with a little bit more experience for Takeshi.
Yeah, 100%. I think. Did you have that third round for Fiziev, Lewis, as well?
Yeah, again, it was just he was outclassed, but he was still in it. The last minute or so, he got some urgency back, realised he needed to finish the fight and started to get a bit of success. But obviously, it was just a bit too little, too late with him. But plenty to come from the Casey in there, and he's only going to learn from that. Right? That guy's clearly a world class striker.
Yeah.
Fight MMA, and that's experience you can't buy, and he's going to come from that. Obviously, a bit sore. Then he's going to, a fight with that level and that level of striking couldn't put him away. It couldn't stop him, and he hit him with bloody everything. Those body kicks, as I said,
echoing around the arena.
You don't understand how much you take out of you, and how much in your head you go, oh, I don't want any more of them. But he was feeling it. I think fair play to him. The heart of a fighter, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. He didn't even flinch. He was like proper, just taking it. Impressive. But Fiziev won via unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28, and it was an entertaining fight. But yeah, I hope they match. I'd like to see a match to Casey up against a real striker in his next bout. See if we can really see what he can show what he can do, because I think there's 100% there's an exciting fighter in there. He just couldn't get it going tonight or in this fight. Next up was another very, very quick fight. Number 6 ranked Jack Hermanson fought number 7 ranked Kelvin Gastelum. Hermanson won via a heel hook in 1 minute 18 of the first round. This was bizarre to me because he nearly gets it once, and Gastelum just doesn't seem to be worried about it, so he doesn't care. He almost gives his legs to him, and he's like, yeah, I'm not in any danger, and he kind of gets out of it, and then probably 30 seconds later he's back in another one, and it's all over. Danny, what do you make of this one, mate?
Yeah, I think I was really excited when I first see Gastelum actually looking like he was donning a shallow six-pack. He can come in a little soft-bodied. Not to say that he doesn't train hard, but it just looked like he's taken the fight game even more serious than he had done previously, and maybe getting some diet issues sorted out. To me, he's not big at the weight. He just don't look as big as his opponents. I know he's not the tallest, but he doesn't have a build to compensate for the height and reach that he gives away to many of his opponents. But you're right, it was a little bit strange. He just kept on using the most basic form of defending the leg lock in a sub position, which is to turn away and sort of kick out of it. That's sort of like what happens in stage 1 and 2 of a potential 5 for the leg lock to be completed. So he's just using the basic form. But when he lost his balance and went down, he didn't appear to honestly have know-how about being step 3, 4, or 5 into the heel hook or into the leg lock arena. He was a little lost. He was kind of like sat there looking at his foot, just hoping something was going to happen for him to get out. He just didn't have answers for it. So yeah, quite possibly we've seen a little bit of a hole in his game there. Leg locks has become a huge part of the no-gi grappling arena. And trust me, MMA fighters are real advocates of every type of striking system and grappling system, and they'll be getting well versed in these leg locks, and you have to know your defenses. We saw a knee bar because of leg exchanges on that evening, and now we see this heel hook. If all the fighters don't all learn up together at the same rate, you're going to see these kind of leg lock finishes more and more and more. Yeah, that really shouldn't have been happening, I don't think, in MMA. I think leg locks do have their place, but with some simple awareness, you can float these leg locks at the first 2 stages of a prep up. It's when it starts getting to 3, 4, and 5, you're kind of getting tied in and having to exchange some knowledgeable defense. Gastelum didn't look like he had it to me.
Yeah, it was weird to me. Like I was looking at it and I just couldn't. He didn't seem like to have any urgency whatsoever to get out of it.
Yeah, because he wasn't aware of the danger. That's what I really think. I just think thought he was going to be okay. Clearly, he's not training with leg lock specialists to know how dangerous that situation was for him.
Lewis, just before I ask you about the leg lock, you're a welterweight. Gastelum's fought a welterweight before. This was a middleweight. Is 5'9" quite short for those weights? He'll be back now. Well, I'll ask you the same question while we just wait for him to come back in. What is 5'9"? What's that like for a middleweight height? Is that quite short or?
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly get by with it. Don't get me wrong, but you would think there would be, a massive physical advantage in another way, like being extremely broad or really thick hipped and legged to take advantages with your physicality elsewhere. Gastelum just doesn't seem to have an advantage in size, even though he's as short as he is. He doesn't look any bigger built than his opponent. His opponent's like a 6-footer. So you got to wonder whether maybe could he cut down, and because I think he'd be a devastating lightweight if he can get there, but that 7 kgs might be a step too much.
Yeah, Lewis, what did you make of Gastelum versus the heel hook? Because I thought, like I said, it was a bit weird.
I mean, again, that first kick, it was an amazing reversal, wasn't it, with that lateral drop. I thought that was awesome. But heel hooks have got their place in MMA, definitely. But he showed that he was going to go for the leg initially, and he didn't defend it. And then he went back into the leg, and then got it. I mean, it wasn't maybe. He didn't do anything to defend it. I mean, stand over your leg, do something, put your weight on it, stand up and punch him, get up and rip away. I know he tied the back leg, but he didn't put anything in place. Just sort of watched it happen as if he didn't know what was going on, as if he didn't know what to do. And that's it. I mean, in MMA, you've got to be careful going for the feet because you commit too much. But he doesn't happen to him. He doesn't get people heel hook in the gym, and just doesn't respect him at all.
And that's what I thought it was. Like I said about he lacked urgency. I felt like he didn't respect the position that he was in terms of he didn't respect the danger that he was in. He didn't think it was a fight ending position. So I think he didn't have the urgency to really try and get out of it. And before you knew it was all over and too late. And then we had the main event, which was Flyweight Championship. And you had number 1 ranked Figueiredo versus Joseph Benavidez. Figueiredo is an animal, Danny. The beast.
He looked better than ever. He absolutely did. The striking was absolutely on point. I felt like Figueiredo, after they fought previously, had gone back and started setting up a game plan for Benavidez. And Benavidez, if you think about it, all his fights, he's looked exactly the same. He's not pretty to look at. He doesn't have slick submissions as such. If he jumps on the guillotine, he can be strong on that. But he's not a transition guy on the ground. Yes, we know he can wrestle. His striking is effective because he throws with so much venom, but it's not attractive by any stretch. He's not got beautiful boxing angles or sexy looking kicks. Fairly crude, and it's got him quite far. But I just felt like Figueiredo has just done more accomplished in skill level and technical level throughout. And on top of that is one mean motherfucker. He really is. He throws with intent. He throws with precision. He's got grappling skills, and he was utterly all over Benavidez. Now, Benavidez must have some gills somewhere else on the body because some of those rear chokes looked like he should have been tapping. But he toughed it out, and I actually thought, well, okay, look, he's obviously he's able just to sit out these chokes. But that final one, he kind of had a bit of a twist on it, and it looked ugly, it looked awful. And, Benavidez, respect to him to take it as far as to go asleep. Figueiredo, monster. I just don't know who's going to touch him in that division right now.
Yeah, that's the issue, isn't it? It's like who do you fight? Who do you match him against? Lewis, what did you make of? But we talked off air about Benavidez being he always looks a bit awkward, but Figueiredo was exceptionally impressive. What did you make of this one?
I mean, Benavidez does look ugly, doesn't he? He does have a weird style. I mean, I just you don't know what to do. You don't know what he's going to throw at you. But Figueiredo his striking was so sharp and on point. I mean, everything was full extension. Those right hands were hitting him clean. I mean, it's hard to criticise or find much holes in his game with that performance. I mean, he he looked on point. He looked scary. He looked like a man he was just about to win a world title.
Yeah.
But, again, that choke. People said like, "Oh, why didn't he tap?" I think he didn't know where he was. He hit once or twice, and he still, when he was on the floor, he didn't know what was going on anyway.
No.
Just all of a sudden was away with the finish.
Yeah. And Lewis, if that had got to the end of the round, I was thinking if that got to the end of the round, I would have scored that probably as a 10-8.
Yeah, that would be a 10-8 round, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you got beaten everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Benavidez didn't get anything off at all. I mean, I wouldn't. As a comment, I'd be thinking, I don't want a second round. There's the one plan here. But Again, as I said, what advice would you give to Benavidez corner if you were cornering him? You just, what would you do? He's just on day that he's just not able to deal with it.
Yeah, you just have to stay on your stool. Don't come out.
I think so. I was just looking at the flyweight rankings to see who could possibly go up against him, and it's kind of like you've got Benavidez, then you've got Moreno, then you've got Pantoja, who we saw earlier in the night, Formiga, Askarov, there's a couple of others, Perez. Like, to me, there's not any which I think automatically that's the guy that might stop him. Maybe I'd quite like to see Formiga maybe, or maybe even Askarov. He looked he had an impressive night's work. Maybe him, or Moreno maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Askarov, I think he's got the cardio and he's got the style to at least flight that dangerous striking style, maybe be able to tire it out of him if he can get through the first few rounds. Clearly Askarov is fit, so that could be one that could be good on the cards.
Yeah, who did what was the other fight, Dan, with the last feet?
Just good for him,
Yeah,
for Askarov,
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
you strike all them down and then you just get hurt, I know what you mean, like the wrestling and fitness. If you can get all of them and set that range down, it would change the dynamic and be a good fight.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, Dan, who was the last fight we covered? Figueiredo versus, and in February it was, and it was against Benavidez as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
he stopped. He TKO'd him, didn't he? Of course. Yeah. In the second round that time.
They had really nice exchanges. It was a lot more closer looking fight, but I think was it a clash of heads that happened in that one?
Possibly. I can't remember.
I think it was. There was a nasty head clash in it.
But the problem you've got is Figueiredo has already beaten Tim Elliott, Pantoja, Formiga, Morales, Beltran. So all those names in the rankings, I think there's only a couple who he hasn't beaten already. Maybe Moreno, Askarov, and Perez. I think, just looking off the top of my head, they're the three which he hasn't already beaten in the top half of the rankings.
Figueiredo, hasn't he a couple of times had some issues with weight cuts? If I remember rightly,
I'm not sure. Yeah, possibly.
Missed weight quite there.
However,
have a look back. He could go up a weight.
Yeah, I take that back. He did lose. He lost to Formiga last year on the Thompson Pettis card. So, I mean, you could rematch them.
Yeah.
Seeing as he's got a victory over
was that a decision? Was
Figueiredo? Unanimous decision
that
was.
Yeah, I think he fatigued in this match. But again, I think this is due to that he didn't have his weight cut down. I think he's had issues.
Okay.
So,
that'd be
going up a
interesting.
weight's a possibility for him if he's that dominant. Go up and challenge yourself. Go up a weight.
That's what the flyweights keep doing, though, isn't it? This you had Mighty Mouse today, and what's the other one? Cejudo.
Yeah.
They need someone to stay in flyweight and defend the title and have some fighters fight for it. But I mean,
yeah.
Okay, so just to finish off this evening's talk, we got a question for Lewis, and also I just want to preview or give our predictions for next Saturday's UFC card, which again has got a couple of British guys on, which is always good to see one in the main event as well. So Lewis, we'll go to you first, mate. The question someone sent in was, could you tell us about some of the Welsh talent that you're excited about coming through over the next couple of years?
I mean, there's quite a big roster coming through, really. I mean, you got the top of the card, really. You got Mason, who's Cage Warriors champion at the minute, so waiting any day for him to get signed. And he's a really passionate, strong fighter. Got then Owen Elliott, who's just 3-0. He's shaky and cheeky. Got a lot of good things to say about him. Got Scotty Pedersen. I think he's coming pro now, which is really nice to see because he's done all the IMAF stuff. I got a guy, Ben Ellis, 2-0. He's looking good. He's looking tipped. I got a kid. He's a kid. He's about 57k dynamite. I don't know who he's going to fight yet, girls or kids or something. But he's dynamite. Like his name's Ethan Sylvie. So
there we go. Yeah, cool. Looking forward to that. But there's some names on there like Oban. Whenever I speak to Shaky, he likes to, like I always ask him about Oban. Like I speak to Oban a bit anyway, but like Shaky rates him really, really highly. And it'd be interesting to see this coronavirus has obviously kind of put a block in many plans, I think, in terms of guys pushing on to that next level. But then one of the guys on this card, which we're going to talk about now, Jay Herbert, obviously was due to fight on UFC London card. So it's good to see him, into this. Okay, so the prelims for next Saturday, we've got Francisco Trinaldo versus Jay Herbert. Danny, who you got for that one, mate?
Jay Herbert.
100%. What about you, Lewis?
Got to go Jay all the way, Got to go Jay all the way.
Good man. Next up then, we got Nicholas Darby versus Jesse Ronson. Dan?
Let's go Jesse Ronson. Yeah. Why not?
What about? Do you know either of those, Lewis? Because I don't.
They're not as well known. That's the thing with some of these prelims. They're bringing on some real fresh meat.
Yeah, 100%. And going back to that card that Modestas was on, I thought the prospects and the future talent on that card was just incredible. It really just like it was like wow. When you look at where those guys are now, and you can see them really pushing on in the next year or so. Tell you what we'll do. We'll skip these prelims until we get someone. Right. Nathaniel Wood versus John Castaneda. Danny.
I'm going to go Nathaniel Wood all the way.
Lewis. Nathaniel Wood and John Castaneda.
We've got to go Nathaniel, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Nathaniel because I think they might match him and Jack together. If Nathaniel wins. I think that could main. I think that could main event at UFC London myself.
Right? Yeah.
I don't think they would put it in the main event because I don't think they would think that it would be a like a good main event, but I think that it would be a good UFC main event for like a London card. Just my opinion, though. Right, okay, and then we've got the main event is Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till. Danny?
I've got to go with Whittaker, man. I think he's just going to be too well-rounded.
Okay. And Lewis,
really
Darren Till versus Robert Whittaker.
It's going to be mental.
It's going to be a
It's
banger.
going to be good. It's going to be a banger, but I just think Whittaker he can just take it to the ground. I think if push comes to shove, I think he's got that option.
Yeah, possibly. But I think also Darren Till's got something to prove after he's coming off a loss, isn't he?
Yeah.
And a big loss as well. So I think he's going to be game. Not that he's not normally game, by the way. But I think I just got a feeling that he's got something to prove. I think Whittaker's coming off a bit of a layoff as well. I'm going to go with Darren Till.
Okay.
And then finally, just Fabricio Verdum versus Alexander Gustafsson at heavyweight. Danny.
Oh,
that's going to be a good one.
Who do you go there? Because Verdum, he had that surprise loss against the Polish guy. I was really shocked about that. The Polish guy come up, he had fitness galore where he normally gasses out, and it's not technically good standing, but I think Verdum would have shaken off some of the rust, and I'm going to go Verdum.
I'm going to go Gustafsson.
He just hasn't impressed me. You know,
he hasn't.
I thought he was retired. I thought he was giving it up.
Yeah, he did. He retired after the John Jones fight, didn't he? And then,
and he didn't look good. He didn't look good in there.
In the rematch, no.
No.
Lewis, who would you have there? Verdum versus Gustafsson at heavyweight.
I got Gustafsson. I think he's going too fast.
Yeah.
Too fast, too fit.
Yeah, and I think going up a weight, I think will actually help him. Because he didn't look too great against John Jones, I got to say. Compared to how he looked in the first fight, he just didn't look the same in the rematch. But obviously it was a good few years later as well. I will mention there's one fight that I'm really, really looking forward to, and that is Khamzat Chimaev. Jesus Christ. Khamzat Chimaev versus Rhys McKay. Rhys McKay, I think is this. But Rhys is, I think, if I'm correct, is a British fighter who was just found out this week that he's been signed by the UFC. So he's coming in on short notice, and that Chimaev is a bit of a banger. So I'm quite looking forward to that. I think that's the guy. But I'm going to double check that just in case I'm completely wrong. And then I'll say it again and edit it out so I don't look like a dick. No, it is him. It's he's nicknamed Skeletor in Cage Warriors. I knew I was right. Question myself. So yeah, he got it. Graham Boylan put a video on Twitter and Instagram just showing the moment he phoned Rhys McKay and said, you know, you're good, you've been signed by the UFC and you're fighting on the Fight Island card in a couple of days.
Yeah,
crack on.
That's not an easy introduction though. That really ain't.
Yeah, I hope he got like a 3 or 4 fight contract and didn't just get a 1 fight deal, because that's harsh, isn't it? 1 fight deal on a week's notice. Brutal. All right, go on then. Who's going to win that? Rhys McKay or Chimaev? Lewis?
I think they match up quite well. I think style-wise as well they match. I think it's a great fight, but obviously Rhys has got to cut weight now, for short notice. But then same again for what's his name? He's still got to cut weight, and he's got issues of being out there already for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Rhys. Like Chimaev only just fought. He obviously beat John Phillips, didn't he? So it'll be interesting how he does. having fought, because, well, I don't know, it's got to be, that's unusual for him to put someone in a fight like a week apart, isn't it? What is it? When did John Phillips and Jack Shaw fight? Last Saturday, was it? Yeah, because were they on the Saturday or were they on the Wednesday with Modestas?
On with Modestas.
Yeah, God, that's not much time, is it? For Kamayev to... his second fight in 11 days. We're finishing up now, Lewis. Anyway, thank you for joining us, mate. Appreciate it. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Yeah, cheers, Lewis.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Dan.
Yeah, that's unusual, Dan, isn't it? To have a fight twice in 11 days.
Yeah,
that's really... I'm really surprised by that.
Yeah.
I know he beat John Phillips, relatively simply, but he did take a couple of shots.
I mean, I've heard people talk about this guy that in training is absolute monster. So
he was a beast, wasn't he? He just John Phillips is no mug, mate. And
no. I mean, he's a banger, absolute banger. Had massively successful career, but
he destroyed him, didn't he?
Yeah, this guy's no mug, man. Seriously, and it's a very, very harsh introduction for Rhys McKee. But Rhys McKee's he's really tall, really rangy, and he's also really well controlled. Everything is methodical about his attacks, his defences, and his counters. And it could see him through, but it's still, to me, a bit of a big ask. But of course, I'm rooting for Rhys McKee. I'd love to see us have more success out there. But yeah, I really hope that they have given him a contract with this. It'd be interesting to find out a little bit more about it.
Harsh, isn't it? Otherwise,
yeah, that's a hard introduction. So yeah, I imagine there is a contract there in place of some sort. They can't expect him to do a one-off against a guy like that, and then potentially be back out of UFC. They're almost guaranteed to be some form of
3-fight deal, 4-fight deal.
Yeah, minimum. Yeah, I'd say minimum
and
3.
I gotta say, if Rhys McKee goes in there and beats him, he beats this guy who's just completely destroyed John Phillips.
Yeah.
What an introduction that is. He's going to be right up the card straight away, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah, that's it. But I mean, it's a good one. It'll be good to watch no matter what. But I do think it's a bit of a tall ask if I'm going to be realistic about it. But that's not to say he hasn't got the tools to win. Of course he has. He's got decent striking, this lad. He fought our very own Jefferson George. Finished him in the first round. It all got set up from a jab that rocked Jefferson. So he's got range. He's clearly got some power there, and got some good takedown defense as well. I've seen him do well, but this guy's wrestling is really another level, and at some point it will be going to the ground. I mean, let's just see. I just hope he puts in
fingers crossed,
and he's there in UFC to stay, because he wouldn't be out of place being there.
Spot on. And very lastly, mate, I just wanted to ask you about your impressions of Jack Shaw's performance in the week. Just because we've been doing the Jack Shaw thing. Obviously, we're not doing that this week, but I thought I'd get your views on it as soon as you were there.
Yeah, I mean, his opponent was a tricky guy. Or it didn't look so, because Jack Shaw just shut him down. He did an incredible job. Showed such composure.
Just waited, didn't he?
Yeah, it looks like he's been UFC for years with the way he performed. It really did. A true star in the making, if you can't class him as a star already. He's a prospect.
I'm really surprised, Dan, that they keep putting him on the first or second fight on the prelims. Really, I'm surprised.
To be honest, I think they're looking after him. They know he's a big prospect. I think they're just taking their time with him because of how young he is, and I don't think that's a wrong thing to do.
No,
each fight that he does have on these prelims, they're even harder nut to crack and even harder to find the answers to beat him. It's going to be when he gets onto that main card. I just think he's just going to look even more impressive when he gets on that main card. So, yeah, okay, keep him on the prelims. It ain't going to stop the inevitable of what I think his potential is going to show, and that is that he's a world beater at any level.
Yeah, the other thing as well is I just like his composure, but you just feel like he's gonna go. He just can do if the fighter wants to take it to the ground, he's comfortable. If he wants to stay striking, he's comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's just very impressive. And what impresses me is yet again, he had 4 different opponents in about a week.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
no one wants to fight him. Now, whether that is because no one wants to fight him, or whether it's just a massive coincidence that things keep happening, in the current climate, it's plausible, I guess. But this has been happening for him for a while. In Cage Warriors, we were discussing the other week when we were looking back that the fighter had changed at the last minute.
Sure.
And I think it shows tremendous confidence in his own ability and his team's confidence in his ability, that they don't care, if the fighter changes. They're always game to go. They're always game to take the fight.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Credit for
it seems it doesn't matter what stylistic type fight he's put up against, he's able to enforce his own will and his own way of how he wants to go about his win. And they're just looking lost on how to deal with him. He's literally just overwhelming them. And each time he steps in against tougher and harder opponents, they're not looking tougher and harder. He's making pretty quick work of these guys. And you've really got to give it not just to Jack personally, but his team. His dad, Richard Shaw, and his team, his training partners, they're all doing a fantastic job. And the team, not just Jack Shaw, but the team as a whole, are going to become a regular appearance on the UFC. I really believe that. Yeah,
he's special, mate. I think is the kind of right terminology. Special talent. What I find weird is he's not very big. Even for his, even for bantamweight, he's not that big, but he just dominates. Like he throws around whoever is whoever he's against. He just dominates them physically as well as technically.
As much as you say he ain't that big, he's actually tall. I'm pretty sure he's taller than his stats say. I think his stats say he's about 5'8", isn't it?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
When I saw him out there, he's at least my height, and I was building at like 5'10". I'm maybe a little shorter than that these days, but he was definitely on par with my height out there, and I'm sure he's more than 5'8".
Yeah.
So he's taller than the stats suggest, and therefore bigger than his stats suggest. To me, he's quite long and rangy for that weight division.
It's it's one of them things, isn't it, mate? It's like he can only fight who's in front of him, but it's getting someone to fight him by the sounds of it.
Yeah, every single time I see him perform, I'm almost fearless for him, no matter who he fights. I just think he's going to be putting on a good performance no matter what. Stylistically, it appears that he's getting it down to such a level that even if someone does figure out a way to make him less effective, he's going to be putting on an incredible performance against that person.
Indeed, yes. I look forward to our next instalment of the Rise of Jack Shaw through Cage Warriors.
Yes.
But for now, thank you to everyone who's watched, listened, downloaded, all that good stuff. Subscribe to youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Follow the show at Danny Batten FS on Twitter, Facebook, not Facebook, Instagram, and follow Ace Podcast Nation everywhere. That is the hub for all our shows and series. We've got loads and loads of good stuff coming up. Got Unscripted Uncensored with Cage Warriors star Jordan Vucinic, among other things. So check them out, give us a subscribe, and we'll see you next week to review Darren Till's card.
Just before we finish, and just a little shout out for as well, Molly McCain, on her fight. Man, her opponent looked devastating and looked really big, really, really strong. Molly will come back from this. She's full of tenacity and full of energy. There's a few things that she needed to put correct. To me, she made a couple of mistakes, which were repeated mistakes with her knee shield up against a fence that got her put down time and time again. She was leaving her foot on the inside when she was knee shielding and not having her foot to the outside, which would give her potential base for that takedown. But it was really hard to watch and see her go through that. But she's a great girl, and I'm sure we're going to see her back and new and improved.
Yeah, she's a warrior. She'll be back. She just couldn't get going on Wednesday. Guys, thanks for watching. Danny, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Defending champion, welcome